Hey, welcome to the podcast. We're very excited about this. This is actually going to be our first technical episode that we're going to be going over. We want to start bringing these technical episodes to you guys because we want to make sure that you always, if you're a business owner, sales professional, whatever, you always have something that you can walk away with. Now, there's this statement that's kind of always running through my head, and I'm very excited about. You're going to be doing a lot of talking today because I think this is where you really shine. Before we get into that, when you showed up today wearing the same hat that I was wearing, but you didn't bring a backup, at first I was bothered by it. But then I realized I have about 100 hats that I need to sell. So if you're watching this episode and you think, and you look like Jake and you're a stud and you're awesome and you like golf shirts and you think the hat looks good, it probably will. So you should hit us up in the DM and I'll sell you this hat. We don't have an online shop. We'll figure it out. And if you're just a fun loving guy like me and you love barbecue, you should also have this hat. So
we're both been thinking about is barbecue.
I know. So these hats, I don't know how they're for sale, but we have tons of them because we gave them all away as gifts and then we just had extra now. Anyways, here's a question that's always running through my brain, or at least it was when I was like full-time in sales. How do I know? We'll say it like this. I'm at the end of the day. How do you know when you're at the end of the day that you have truly maximized every opportunity that was given to you? And I think what I actually learned from you on a lot of things is what I want to talk about today. When we look at sales professionals, whether they're in our TSL membership, they're our one-on-one students, or like our C-suite level clients, the one thing that is common amongst all of them is, what did you do with your day? The same way you budget money, you have to budget your time. And I think that the most successful sales professionals, or anyone at that caliber, actually anyone successful, knows where their time went. They tell it where to go. So today I want to get into, and I really want to talk about that with you, what you have been implementing and teaching to our students and to our clients about how to maximize their days. So probably the first thing that I want to talk about at a high level, why is this even important? Why is it important to tell your day where to go?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked. First off, I think a lot of sales professionals view their role and what they do from completely different from every single other department. They're like, well, my day's crazy. I can't plan things out. What are you talking about? And I remember even when I started in sales is I had like an actual planner. Yeah, I think it was something that I bought from Brennan Bouchard. There's all these different planners and trainings on how to map out your day. And I'm like, well, none of this works for me because my day's crazy. I have prospects that call me back at random times, and there's no way to actually create structure. So to answer your question, why is this important? Well, for a sales professional, and we're going to talk about this, is in order for you to get better at what you do, you have to actually reflect on what worked. And a lot of sales professionals don't actually accurately document what they do on a day-to-day basis. So if you're watching this, maybe you've had a month or a week where things popped off and it went phenomenal. And then the next week it's like flatline. There's no sales coming in for whatever reason. And you sit there scratching your head, asking yourself a question, well, why is that? Well, by actually planning things out, actually documenting inside of your calendar what you are doing on a day-to-day basis, now you have a record of what worked. The months or the weeks where you popped off and made the most sales, you can now look at that and be like, well, I did these things and it produced these sales. And then you can look at your next month and be like, I stopped doing those things.
I want you to go deeper on this. How can managing my calendar make me more money?
By showing you exactly the things that are already working, I would say.
What do you mean by that?
A lot of salespeople, again, is they will spend time, effort, and energy just doing random tasks. So I'd say the first way it's going to make you more money is by knowing what works and what doesn't, right? Being able to look at your calendar and be like, hey, I made sales by doing these tasks. I need to do them again. I would say that's number one. The second thing is there is power in being disciplined and consistent with your time. a great example of this is with a lot of sales professionals that we're working with now, is telling them that they should have a clear start and stop time to their day. Salespeople, I think they forget that you are a human being and that you need to recharge. You can't run hot all the time. And part of sales isn't about making the most amount of money, but it's making the most amount of money over the longest period of time. And the best way to do that is to make sure that, or one way to do it, I would say, is to make sure that you have a clear, here's when I start my day, here's my routine, I am consistent and disciplined, I get up at this time, I work out, I read, I do these things every day, and I have a checklist that I follow to get me in the right mindset for selling. And then the end of the day, I have a clear shut-off routine of here's what I do at the end of the day. And that allows you to actually recharge. So every single day, you are showing up consistently with the same level of momentum and energy week after week, month after month, year after year.
Okay. Since this is technical, let's get very technical. I am new. Let's get technical. I'm new to sales, or I'm new to not even to sales. I am new to knowing what works. I am new to managing my time. So where do I even start if I have never managed my time? I've never leveraged a calendar. I've never blocked things off, never color coordinated, all the things that we love talking about. Yeah. So how do I know what works?
Great question. So the very first thing that I would do is I would label things. We use all the sales teams and companies that we work with, all of them use Google Calendar. In Google Calendar, you have the ability to color coordinate and actually label the different activities that you have throughout the day. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create labels for the different activities that I have. The first one I would do is I would label your routines. I talked earlier about having a specific start and stop time to your day. So I would label the routines. Specifically, I like to use, and I'll give you the exact colors. I like to use blue, I think it's called Blueberry on Google Calendar. Blue. Anything blue on my calendar, that is something that is like part of my routine. Either it's admin stuff I'm doing in the morning. Those are routine things that I do every single day. Those are recurring events on my calendar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add those. Something at the beginning of my day, something at the end of my day. Examples.
You got to get a little bit deeper here. Give actual takeaways because, again, I don't know anything. I don't know how to even start managing my day. So what are examples of what would be Blueberry, or for me, they're red, like non-negotiables?
Mm-hmm. An example of that. So a routine block is I would have something for your morning routine. I would block out when you actually start your day, like when you wake up. So I would have a block on your calendar specifically that says morning routine. And I would have that repeat every single day. And in the description of that, I would put bullet points of what do you do in your morning routine? Oh, I wake up, I work out, I read a book. But the other part of this is reducing decision fatigue, where you don't have to think about things. You can look at your calendar, and I do it all the time. One of the first things I look at in the morning is I look at my calendar. Even though I do the same thing every day, I still look at my calendar. I'm like, oh, I do this, and that. Okay, cool. I don't have to think about it. Right?
Can I jump in real quick? What you just said was what I was hoping you were going to get to. Reducing decision fatigue, right? Like we're reducing the ability. It's the same reason, Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day, right? He wants to reduce decision fatigue because he wants to save his decision making, his thinking time, he wants to save everything that his brain has to do that day for the only high activity type of things, right? So I think what I love and when I look at your calendar, because we have access to each other's calendars, even on your morning routine, and I learned this years ago, but looking at yours, it's like, oh, I can even get more detailed, is I'm not just waking up, because waking up could be 5:30. For me, waking up is 5:30 to 6:30. It says morning routine, right? But what's in my morning routine? Because I could burn an hour in that morning. Now, if burning an hour for you is how you wake up, okay, great. At least you know that. But I would bullet point, do whatever the hell, burn an hour, do whatever I want. But I love it in there. It's like, hey, I'm reading my Bible at this time. I'm doing this. I'll cold plunge, boom, boom, boom. That's what will happen within that hour. Because even the minutes in that hour are important to tell where to go. So that way, when you wake up, my favorite thing that we do now as a business is, it's like, I think we do them on Sundays and Saturdays, depending on the week, whatever, but we know what the week's going to have to. So when I go to bed on Sunday night, I don't have to think at all what's going to happen because I know. I even know what our free time is going to be, meaning that like something has to come up. We need to, take on an extra meeting or extra sales call or whatever. We have dedicated times to put that in. And I think most sales professionals, they could leverage that thing that you're talking about right now, reduce decision fatigue.
You don't have to think about it. Yeah.
You don't have to think about it.
So, as I was saying, I would put a block, your morning routine. I would have a 30-minute block beginning of the day that is your beginning of day sales routine. And I would have a checklist. You can make it 30 minutes that says, here's what I do every single day before I start making calls. I confirm my consults. I send the projections to my manager. I check notes inside of the CRM. Depending on your business and what you do, it's all going to be different. But I would have a checklist every single morning before I start dialing. I do these things, and then at the end of your day, you should have a block that says EOD routine. And during that routine, you have a set of things that you do. I send a report to my sales director. I add notes, because if you've ever had a day where you're on back-to-back calls, you're taking 6 hours of calls, I guarantee you forgot to add notes in the CRM.
Not me, though.
Josh. I don't think Josh barely knew how to use the CRM.
I mean, I never even heard of CRM until I started getting into sales. So yeah, that is true.
But I guarantee you, it happens to all salespeople. You get to the end of your day, and what you want to do is you want to actually, at the end of your day, be able to take some time to relax, recharge, so you're ready to crush the next day. And it is so much easier to do that when you don't have to, you're not thinking, you're not watching TV or hanging out with your spouse, and you're like, oh, crap, did I add the notes? Did I send that email? Did I send that text? Having a routine at the end of the day ensures that never happens, because you go through, hey, I talked to 6 people. I'm going to check Bob, Sally, Jerry, and make sure I sent emails to them to follow up. I'm going to make sure that I added notes inside of the CRM for them as well.
I want to touch on something again that you just said. That time that you are sitting there with your spouse, by yourself, whatever, and you're watching something, decompressing, you have ended your day. How have you noticed how much more impactful that time is, knowing that you did everything that was on your end of day report?
Oh, it's so much better. The ability to be present, either on sales calls or with a spouse, it's just, I'd say it's just a complete game changer for life in general. And that's something that's hard to do, is to actually be present. Because how many times are we sitting there doing the thing, right? Making calls, hanging out with a friend, but our mind's somewhere else. We're thinking about something else. And that's, I mean, personally, I know this is getting a little off topic. That's something I've been working at really, really hard, especially with like 2 boys, is I want to make sure like I am, and I don't want to get too off topic, but like one of the things I've been thinking about lately, I'm going to get a little off topic, is like death and dying, and thinking about like, okay, I'm not going to be here that long. I have 2 boys that are 3 and 6. And they are only going to be this age for so long, and I'm trying to be as present as possible with them. Because I think about, okay, when I'm dying, what am I going to think about? Am I going to think about that email I forgot to send? Or am I going to think about the time that I was actually able to spend with them? And anyways.
Here's why I don't think it's off topic at all. To me, you have to first know how you define success. If you know how you define success, then you understand how important it is to put the parameters on your time and on your calendar. Because at the end of the day, would it be amazing if all day long, all I did was hang with my wife and my kids day in, day out, every waking hour of the day? If I'm going to be honest with you, no, it wouldn't be. But I mean, just for the
couldn't
sake
deal
of
with
the
that.
analogy,
I couldn't deal with that.
you can't do that because you know why? Because we have to pay for things. Even if you have your house completely paid for, here's maybe something might be shocker for people. You still have to pay on that house that is completely paid off. You've got taxes, you've got sewer, you got trash, you got all these things, you got water, you have utilities. By the way, let's not forget, if you're a human being, you have to do this thing called eating. Right. And let's say, do you want to live in your house the rest of the time or do you want to be able to travel and go places? So no matter what your financial situation is, there will always need to be the exchange of money. So unless you are some trust fund kid or you're just wealthy independent, there will be some level of services provided that allows you to exchange and get money working. Okay. Now, if the most important thing in the way you define success, and especially for us, is being able to be there, to be present and be grateful, as I say, if you're going to be present and you're going to be grateful, then I want to make sure that when I am off, I am 100% off. We tell each other that all the time. And I'll say, hey, you're about to be off. Are you off or are you off? Off means like literally, I'm not texting you. I'm not calling you. I know, especially like on your blocks, because we have blocks for date nights. So in your date night block, I'm like, no, I don't even think about it. However big the fire is, I'll figure it out because nothing comes in front of that date night. But if you did not do everything that you're talking about, which is starting a start date or having a start time and an end time, and then filling in the gaps in between, which is I'm going to make sure that I confirm all my consults at this time. And then I'm going to make sure I hit these people at this time. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure all my notes are turned in. And then I'm going to make sure that I've hit up tomorrow's consults. So that way, again, this is why it's not off topic. That way, when it is time to just sit and have dinner with the family around the table, go to a game, hang out with some friends, chill and unwind. Maybe you're a big video gamer and you just want to burn an hour playing video games because you worked your tail off. Great. But make sure that you're actually present in whatever it is that you're doing. Right. And the best way to do that is what you're talking about right now.
Yeah. And you have to, going back to what I was saying earlier, is you have to be consistent and disciplined with those blocks. So, as I was saying, I would add specific blocks to your, or label specific activities on your calendar, begin time, end time, and then I would color coordinate like the different activities. We like to use green for sales calls. So if you have someone on your calendar and they have confirmed or they showed to the call, it's green. Green means money, right? Yeah. At the end of the week, when I look at my whole week, I want to see as much green as possible. Like green means I should have made a lot of money that week. And if I didn't make any money that week, then I screwed something up.
Yeah. Why is color coordinating important? Like, what are the benefits of color coordinating? Why not just use the stock color and whatever comes and I've got all the blocks there?
Yeah. The couple reasons. The first reason is in order to get better as a salesperson, part of that is reflecting on what has worked. And by color coordinating things, now you have a quick snapshot of how your week actually went, right? So here's a great example. If I have so we like to use orange for prospecting and purple for managing pipeline. If I don't have a lot of green on my calendar, and let's say the week, I look at the whole week and there's a lot of purple and orange, well, what does that tell me? Well, that tells me I'm probably going to have a really good week next week because I did a lot of pipeline, I did a lot of prospecting, probably set a bunch of deals, started a lot of conversations. It means I worked my tail off. And it means next week, I'm going to be able to see the fruit of those labors and if that actually worked, right? So now I can reflect back on the previous week and be like, man, week one, I work my pipeline hard. I didn't have a lot of consult, didn't have a lot of green, didn't have a lot of sales calls on my calendar, but I prospected a ton of my pipeline. I went out and set new deals and opportunities for myself. Should have a really good week next week.
And if next week you don't see a ton of green,
then you know I did something that last week. I know, okay, how I was managing my pipeline, how I was prospecting and setting deals for myself didn't work. So I need to change something.
And let's be clear, it's not changing a ton of things. It could be something minor, or maybe in that calendar you got a lot of orange and purple. But if you were to do a time audit, which you could do the following week, and be like, did I really purple and orange, or was I actually just scrolling? You know what I'm saying? That's why the bullet points inside the calendar block and documenting what happened, your end of days, your end of weeks, those things like that are the accountability to the work that the calendar is saying. It's like everything has a checks and balance with you. That's one thing I've noticed. So now that we've got color coordinating.
The other thing I want to add to that's very important when it comes to reviewing things is there's a difference between you planning your week a specific way versus how it actually went. A lot of salespeople will plan out their week, but it's not accurate. So one of the things that I personally do, and you've probably seen it on my calendar, beginning of the week, things are all nice and pretty and look a certain way. And by the end of the week, it's kind of a mess. If I wake up at like right now, I typically am up around like 4:30. There was times this week where I woke up a little bit later. So you know what I did? That block on my calendar, I moved it down because I wanted my calendar to accurately reflect when I actually got up, when I actually did the thing, right? If I have if you have a meeting as a sales professional, and let's say your sales consults take 30 minutes, but you had a couple that week that took an hour, I would move that down so it says that it took an hour. So when you look back on your week, you're like, man, I had a bunch of calls on my calendar, but a lot of them took longer than expected. I need to clean up how I'm doing my calls because my calls are taking longer. But I just want to address that because you want to make sure that your calendar is an accurate reflection of what actually happened that week. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yes, because then to hit on the point that you said at the very, very beginning, which is your ability to reflect that affects your ability to project.
Yeah.
So if you accurately, say you put all these blocks on your calendar, you follow Jake's plan perfectly, you put all these blocks on your calendar, and then you accurately adjust to what really happened when you reflect on end of day, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is for you. And you're like, okay, what actually happened here? Okay, I see that. Yeah, got it. Now next week, and you can be like, you know what? I've actually consistently, I'm not up at 4:45. That was, just me being very, like overachieving here. Yeah. I'm a 5:15er. Yeah. Great. Then start next week, your calendar at 5:15. Yeah. And then focus on honoring that commitment. Right? Do what you need to do to honor your commitments. So again, I love where you talk about when you accurately reflect, it's going to allow you to accurately project, which projecting is how we're setting ourselves up to say, how am I going to achieve that which I want to achieve? How am I going to tackle and make more money, hit up my numbers, hit my KPIs, right? Yep. Nearing the end of this episode, we've got reflecting, we've got projecting, we've got making sure that we have a start time and an end time. We've got color coordinating, so that way we can make sure that we're seeing where our time is going as a budget. What would you say are some parting words of saying, like, when it truly comes to making sure that you are making the most of every part of your week to be successful and to make as much money as you can as a sales professional? What are some final things?
I would say the number one thing is be honest with yourself and how you're using your time. If you were not effective with your time during the day and you didn't actually honor the commitments that you made, then be honest with yourself. Versus it's much better for you to say, man, I did not honor the blocks that I had on my calendar. I didn't honor any of them. It's much better for you to do that than say, gold star for me. Yeah, gold star. Because then you're, what's the word I'm looking for? You're kind of a, psychopath? Like, not, you're just crazy. You're a liar. Lying doesn't allow you to actually get better because you're not taking accurate information. If you don't have accurate information, then you can't truly get better because your benchmark is off. So I'd say that's number one. And then number two, I'd say, is just staying disciplined with planning things out. If you can take one thing away from this episode, I would say starting today, at the end of your day, plan out the next day. Plan out the next day, plan out the blocks that you're going to have on the next day and what you want to get done.
Yeah. I love it. I want to give my final parting words because I think I would fall into probably more alignment with most people who are listening because I never tracked anything. I just was like, I'll figure it out. Like I had just a figure it out attitude, which was just pure chaos, especially when I was, before I got into sales. The easiest thing for me was to take everything that you said, which is all right and brilliant, and take it into bite-sized chunks. So I looked at my week and I just said, what do I know that's going to happen? First and foremost, I know that I should try to wake up at this time, boom, and I want to be done at this time, boom. And I would let 1 or 2 weeks go by and see how accurate it was. It wasn't that I was trying to lie, I didn't know any better. So I just gave it a shot. And then I slowly was able to start filling in the calendar and be like, no, I know this. Like if you're in a workplace or in a work environment where every day we have a sales meeting at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., every day you have, say you're part of the sales league training and it's, hey, we're going to hop on this training at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesdays or on Thursdays. Great. Block that off on your calendar. Those things that you know are going to happen no matter what, put those in. And then you can slowly apply, listen back to this episode, or if you're actually in our training, then you get all of this laid out for you and it's all just laid out for you and it's pretty easy. It's plug and play, but you can slowly add in all of those amazing elements you were talking about because it's like, hey, I got this and this. All right. Step 1, step 2, add a little bit more, step 3. And then you can slowly reflect and add. And your first couple weeks of reflecting might be like 5 minutes. You're like, yeah, it seemed right. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. But then when you look at your paycheck, you might be like, maybe not as right as I thought it was. Yeah. Let me go back and assess. Then I'll adjust. Then I'll project moving forward. So dude, great stuff. Any other final words again? No. I know you just gave them, but that was awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Whatever it is that you did with this podcast episode, we hope that it helps you be more productive. If we can give you guys just even one little gold nugget, one tool that says, boom, now I can leverage that. I can use that to go and increase in my performance and whatever it is I'm doing. I can go and make more money. I can go and be more productive. Heck, if this will just help you better at work so that you can actually be present at home, oh my God, then this podcast did what it needed to do. As always, we're grateful for you. We're thankful for you. The only thing that we will ever ask of you is just to share this and help somebody. Everybody has time management issues. It just is what it is. So if at any moment this is beneficial for you, please share it, like it, love it. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, stay sharp.